The United States is changing its strategy in the Sahel, moving to re-engage Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso after years of limited contact following a wave of military coups. This policy shift is coming in President Donald Trump's second year in office under his renewed America First agenda and marks a clear reversal from Biden's administration's withdrawal from the region. Let's take a look.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
Thus, Trump's first declaration of the America First agenda in Washington with NBC News. Now, under President Joe Biden, Washington reduced or suspended military cooperation after elected government were removed from power between 2020 and 2023. Niger, once one of the U.S. most important security partners in West Africa, was a key example of this pullback. At the time, the U.S. argued that continued engagement would weaken its support for democracy, but that decision had consequences. Now, what's the consequences? A vacuum opens and Russia moves in. As the U.S. and its European partners stepped back, Russia stepped forward. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso expelled French troops, cut defense ties with Europe, and left the Economic Community of West African States regional bloc. They formed a new alliance, the Alliance of Sahel States, and turned to Moscow for security support. Let's take a look.
In Africa, we tend to make a lot of requests. We know that you are engaged in a special military operation. We understand all the challenges involved and the uncertainty about tomorrow that the whole world faces. We can relate to that. So we may not be here to ask for a lot of things, to request aid or anything like that. But the help you can give us above all is this transfer of knowledge that we seek.
Traore laying his demands, Africa's demands, to Putin right there. Russia expanded its presence through military cooperation, security advisors, and troops under its Africa Corps. It also backed joint projects, including a shared telecommunications satellite meant to improve security coordination and digital connectivity. Today, Moscow presents itself as a reliable partner for governments fighting jihadist groups that have destabilized the region for more than a decade. Still yet, violence continues despite military rule in Burkina Faso. Despite strong military control, attacks have not stopped. In Niger, militants linked to Islamic State attacked the airport in the capital, Niamey, in recent weeks. The assault was repelled with Russia claiming joint action, but its personnel and Nigerian forces. Take a look.
We remind the sponsors of these mercenaries, notably Emmanuel Macron, Patrice Talon, Alassane Ouattara. We have listened to them bark enough. They should also prepare to hear us roar.
Also in Mali, an Al-Qaeda-linked group killed at least 15 drivers in an attack on a fuel convoy heading to Bamako, highlighting the continued strength of armed groups. U.S. diplomats privately admit that jihadist groups are not retreating. Instead, they appear to be settling in deeper across the Sahel. Now, this brings us to the big question. Why is Washington changing course at this critical time? U.S. officials now see the Sahel as a growing security risk rather than a problem that can be managed from a distance. The new U.S. approach places security cooperation ahead of democratic conditions. Officials say ignoring the region has only allowed rivals to gain ground and militant groups to expand. Washington also signaled it is open to talks with all three Sahel governments. This was underlined by the recent visit of Nick Choker, head of the U.S. State Department's Bureau of African Affairs, to Bamako, where he met Mali's Foreign Minister Abdoulaye Diop. The visit was the most senior U.S. engagement with Mali's military leadership in months and signaled a cautious attempt to reset relations. To the U.S., resources matter, but security comes first. But then we'll get to know about that. The three Sahel states are also important because of their natural resources. Mali and Burkina Faso are major gold producers. Niger remains a key source of uranium, while lithium deposits in Mali are drawing global attention also. Even so, analysts say the U.S. is unlikely to thread security support directly for access to minerals. Ongoing insecurity, weak institutions, and corruption risks continue to discourage major U.S. companies from investing. Power titans at home, over in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and Europe phase out. Inside the region, military governments are tightening control. Burkina Faso recently dissolved all political parties, formalizing restrictions already in place since the 2022 coup. Similar patterns are seen in Mali and Niger, where political opposition and public dissent are closely controlled. Meanwhile, Europe's influence continues to shrink. France has withdrawn militarily, and while EU development programs remain, analysts warn that Europe lacks a clear, unified strategy for the Sahel. The bigger question: the U.S. return raises difficult questions. Did the Biden administration's withdrawal make the region more unstable? Has Russia become the main security partner by default? Can the U.S. protect its interests without endorsing military rule? And is this shift about fighting terrorism or about not losing strategic ground and even resources? For now, Washington is back with fewer conditions, sharper calculations, and a clearer focus on competition in one of Africa's most fragile regions.